My name is Natalie Morgan, and I just turned 30. For 5 years, I've been paying my parents' $3,200 monthly mortgage to save their home. Tonight was supposed to be special. I'd reserved a table at Elysium, the most exclusive restaurant in town. But as I sat there, staring at the empty chairs across from me, my phone dinged. The message read, "Sorry, honey. Something came up with Michael. You're not our priority right now." After years of being second best, something inside me finally snapped. I left them a note that changed everything. Before I dive into what happened next, let me know where you're watching from the comments. If my story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories about setting boundaries with family. Trust me, what happened the morning after I left that note will shock you as much as it shocked my parents. Growing up in the shadow of my brother Michael was something I became accustomed to from an early age. Michael was 3 years younger than me, but somehow, he became the sun around which our family orbited. Our parents, Thomas and Diana Morgan, were decent people who loved both their children, but their actions consistently showed a clear preference. In 3rd grade, I won first place in the regional spelling bee, beating kids 2 grades above me. My parents couldn't attend because Michael had a minor league soccer game. When I brought home the trophy, my mother said, "That's nice, honey," before returning her attention to Michael's participation medal. High school was more of the same. I graduated as valedictorian with a full academic scholarship offer to State University. The celebration dinner was cut short because Michael needed help with his science fair project. He placed 3rd, and my parents took the entire family out for an extravagant dinner at the steakhouse Michael loved. College was where the disparity became impossible to ignore. While I worked 3 jobs to cover my living expenses, textbooks, and transportation, my parents paid every cent of Michael's tuition, housing, and even gave him a monthly allowance. When I pointed this out, my father said, "You've always been the responsible one, Natalie. Michael needs more support." After graduation, I landed a position at Prestige Financial Advisors. Through hard work and dedication, I was promoted to senior financial advisor within 4 years. At my promotion party, which I organized myself, my parents showed up an hour late and left early because Michael called with car trouble. The defining moment in our relationship came when my parents faced foreclosure on their home 5 years ago. They had overextended themselves financially to help Michael start a business venture that failed within 6 months. Without hesitation, I purchased their house and set up an arrangement where I would pay the monthly mortgage of $3,200 while they continued living there. "It's just until we get back on our feet," my father promised. 5 years later, I was still paying their mortgage while they continued to prioritize Michael's needs over mine. Last year, I turned 29 and invited my parents to dinner at a modest Italian restaurant. They confirmed they would attend but texted me 30 minutes after the reservation time. "Michael's having girlfriend troubles." Rain check. I ate birthday cake with a restaurant staff who felt sorry for me. My boyfriend Jason witnessed this pattern throughout our 2-year relationship. After meeting my parents for the first time, he asked, "Do they always talk about Michael that much?" I hadn't even noticed how they had dominated the entire dinner conversation with stories about Michael's latest endeavors. My best friend Cassandra was less diplomatic. "They're taking advantage of you, Nat," she would say whenever I made excuses for my parents' behavior. "You're paying their mortgage and they can't even show up for your birthday? That's messed up." Despite the warnings from those who cared about me, I continued seeking my parents' approval. When my 30th birthday approached, I decided to make it special. I reserved a table at Elysium, a restaurant with a 6-month waiting list that I had connections to through a client. I sent the invitation to my parents 3 weeks in advance, confirming multiple times. Each time, they assured me they wouldn't miss it for the world. 30 is a big one, my mother said during our last phone call. "We'll be there with bells on." I believed them. Despite years of disappointment, I still believed them. The day of my 30th birthday started with such promise. I took the afternoon off work to prepare for the evening. At the salon, I splurged on a professional blowout, my chestnut hair falling in soft waves around my shoulders. The makeup artist gave me a subtle smoky eye that made my green eyes pop against my fair skin. Back in my apartment, I slipped into the new dress I'd purchased specifically for the occasion, a deep emerald number that Jason said made me look like a movie star. As I fastened the clasp on the pearl necklace my grandmother had given me before she passed, I couldn't help but feel this birthday would be different. "You look stunning," Jason said when he picked me up at 7. He handed me a small wrapped box, which contained a pair of pearl earrings that matched my necklace perfectly. "I've been saving up," he admitted with a shy smile. 30th birthdays only happen once. Cassandra met us at Elysium, wearing a vibrant blue dress and carrying a gift bag. "Happy birthday, gorgeous," she exclaimed, hugging me tightly. "Tonight is going to be amazing." The restaurant was everything I'd hoped for, with crystal chandeliers hanging from high ceilings and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. The maitre d' led us to our table, set for 5. "The other guests have not arrived yet," he noted, "but we'll seat you now." "They'll be here soon," I assured him, checking my watch. It was exactly 8 o'clock, our reservation time. By 8:15, I texted both my parents. "We're seated and waiting for you." By 8:30, I called them. No answer. At 8:45, the waiter approached awkwardly. "Would you like to order, or are you still waiting?" "Let's give them 15 more minutes," I said, forcing a smile. Jason and Cassandra exchanged concerned glances, but said nothing. Instead, they filled the time with cheerful conversation about work and mutual friends, anything to distract from the obvious. At 9 o'clock, exactly 1 hour after our reservation time, my phone dinged. The message was from my mother. "Sorry, honey. Something came up with Michael. You're not our priority right now. Enjoy dinner with your friends. We'll make it up to you." I stared at the screen, reading and rereading the words. "You're not our priority right now." They hadn't even bothered to invent a convincing emergency. "What is it?" Jason asked, his hand covering mine. I handed him my phone. His jaw tightened as he read the message, then passed it to Cassandra. "Are you kidding me?" Cassandra exclaimed, too loudly. Several diners turned to look at our table. "What was so important with Michael?" I texted back. "What happened? Is he okay?" The reply came quickly. He just moved into his new apartment and needed help assembling furniture. He was overwhelmed, and you know how he gets. The truth hit me like a physical blow. My parents had skipped my milestone birthday dinner at one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city to assemble furniture. "I'm so sorry, Nat," Jason said, squeezing my hand. The waiter returned, his expression uncomfortable. "Would you like to order now?" "Yes," I said, my voice hollow. "We'll order." Throughout the meal, I went through the motions. I smiled at appropriate times, responded to questions, even laughed at Jason's jokes. But inside, I was crumbling. Each time a server walked by our table, their eyes lingered on the empty chairs across from me. The pity in their glances was unbearable. When the staff brought out a small cake with a candle, singing "Happy Birthday" with practiced enthusiasm, something in me broke. I excused myself to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and cried silently for 10 minutes. When I returned to the table, my makeup freshly applied, Cassandra and Jason pretended not to notice my red-rimmed eyes. "I think I'd like to go home," I said after picking at my cake. "Of course," Jason replied immediately. As we left, the maitre d' expressed his regrets that my entire party couldn't make it. "Perhaps another time," he said kindly. In the car, Jason tried to comfort me. "Your parents don't deserve you, Nat. You know that, right?" I stared out the window at the passing city lights. "I keep giving them chances," I whispered. "Why do I keep doing that?" "Because you're a good person who loves her family," he answered. "But maybe it's time to start loving yourself more." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. As we drove in silence, I couldn't shake the words from my mind. "You're not our priority right now." After 5 years of paying their mortgage, after a lifetime of understanding and forgiveness, I wasn't a priority. Jason offered to stay with me that night, but I insisted I needed some time alone. "I'll call you tomorrow," I promised as he reluctantly left my apartment. Unable to sleep, I sat on my couch in pajamas, mindlessly scrolling through social media to distract myself. That's when I saw it. My cousin had tagged my parents in photos posted just 2 hours earlier. The location, Michael's new apartment. The scene, my parents, Michael, and his girlfriend Amber, sitting on the floor surrounded by pizza boxes and beer bottles, laughing as they posed next to a newly assembled bookshelf. The timestamp showed 10:15 p.m. While I was still at the restaurant, fighting back tears and making excuses for them, they were having a pizza party at Michael's place. They looked happy. Carefree. Not at all like people dealing with an emergency or feeling remorseful about missing their daughter's birthday. Something inside me shattered. I called Jason, barely coherent through my tears. He was at my door 20 minutes later, still wearing the clothes from dinner. They lied to me. I sobbed into his shoulder as he held me. They weren't even doing anything important. They were having fun. Jason guided me to the couch, his arm around me protectively. This has to stop, Nat. They're taking advantage of your kindness. Around midnight, Cassandra called. I saw the pictures, she said without preamble. Those inconsiderate jerks. As I was talking to Cassandra, another call came in. It was my Aunt Vivian, my mother's sister. I saw Diana's check-in at Michael's place, she said when I called her back. Weren't they supposed to be at your birthday dinner tonight? I couldn't hold back the truth any longer. Through fresh tears, I told Aunt Vivian everything, including the 5 years of mortgage payments. Oh, Natalie, she sighed. I had no idea. This isn't right. After hanging up, I paced my apartment, my grief transforming into something else. Resolve. The mortgage payment for my parents' house was scheduled to automatically withdraw from my account on the 1st of the month, just 2 days away. I can't keep doing this, I said to Jason. I can't keep prioritizing people who don't prioritize me. What are you thinking? He asked cautiously. I'm thinking it's time my parents learn what it feels like when I'm not their safety net. I sat at my desk and began drafting a note. The first version was 4 pages of hurt and anger. The second was cold and businesslike. Neither felt right. Finally, at around 2 in the morning, I wrote, If I'm not your priority, don't expect me to be yours. I've paid your mortgage for 5 years out of love. That stops today. Natalie. I called my bank's 24-hour customer service line and spoke to a representative about stopping the automatic payment scheduled for the 1st. I need to confirm that you understand this may result in a missed payment if no alternative payment method is established, the representative said. I understand, I replied, my voice steady for the first time that night. After the call, a strange calm settled over me. Jason, who had been dozing on the couch, woke when I sat beside him. I stopped the payment, I told him, and I wrote them a note. He read the note, then looked at me with concern. Are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. At dawn, I drove to my parents' house. Their cars were in the driveway, indicating they had returned from Michael's. Using the key they had given me years ago, I slipped inside and placed the note on the kitchen counter where they would see it first thing in the morning. As I drove away, I felt a confusing mixture of dread and liberation. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't responsible for keeping a roof over my parents' heads. The weight that lifted from my shoulders was so tangible that I found myself sitting straighter in the driver's seat. Whatever happened next, I knew there was no going back. I slept deeply for the first time in days, emotionally exhausted from the birthday disaster and the decision I'd made. When I woke around noon, my phone showed 17 missed calls, 8 from my mother, 5 from my father, 3 from Michael, and 1 from Aunt Vivian. There were even more text messages. Mom, 7:15 a.m. What is this note supposed to mean? Mom, 7:30 a.m. Natalie, call us immediately. Mom, 8 a.m. You can't be serious. This isn't funny. Dad, 8:05 a.m. We need to talk about this note you left. Call me. Dad, 8:45 a.m. The bank says the payment was stopped. What are you doing? Michael, 9:15 a.m. What the hell, Nat? Mom and Dad are freaking out. Mom, 9:30 a.m. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? Dad, 10 a.m. Your mother is in tears. I hope you're happy. Michael, 10:30 a.m. You're being incredibly selfish right now. Mom, 11 a.m. Please, Natalie. We can't afford this house on our own. You know that. I set my phone down without responding and made myself a cup of coffee. As I sat at my kitchen table, my phone rang again. Michael. Against my better judgment, I answered. What the hell is wrong with you? He demanded without preamble. Good morning to you too, Michael. I replied calmly. Mom is having a breakdown. Dad is talking about getting a second job. All because you're throwing some tantrum about a dinner? I took a deep breath. It wasn't just a dinner. It was my 30th birthday, which they promised to attend. Instead, they helped you build furniture and had a pizza party. I needed help moving. And they're parents. They're supposed to help us. Yes, Michael. They're supposed to help us. Both of us. But for years, it's only been you who gets the help, the attention, the priority. I've been paying their $3,200 mortgage for 5 years while they drop everything whenever you need them. There was a pause. That's different, he finally said.
How?
How is it different? You're the successful one. You can afford it. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I can afford it because I work hard, Michael. I don't expect handouts. I don't expect Mom and Dad to drop everything when I call. But I did expect them to show up for my birthday dinner. I did expect a little consideration after everything I've done for them. You're overreacting, he insisted. It was just one dinner. It's been my whole life, Michael. And I'm done. Tell Mom and Dad they have 30 days to figure out how to pay their own mortgage. I hung up as he was mid-protest. Seconds later, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Cassandra holding a tray with 2 large coffees and a bag from my favorite bakery. Reinforcements have arrived, she announced, stepping inside. I figured you could use some moral support today. I hugged her, suddenly tearful again. They're blowing on my phone, making me feel like I'm the villain. Classic manipulation, she said, setting down the food. They're the ones who screwed up, but somehow they've made it your fault. As we ate pastries, my phone rang again. This time it was my father. Cassandra gave me an encouraging nod. Hello, I answered, my voice neutral. Natalie, my father began, his tone stern. We need to discuss this childish behavior. Your mother and I have been up all night worried sick. All night? The note wasn't there until dawn. A pause. That's not the point. The point is you can't just stop paying the mortgage without warning. I warned you for years that I was stretching myself thin paying for your house. I told you multiple times that I needed you to start contributing. And we will. But we need time to arrange our finances. You've had 5 years, Dad. Natalie, I don't think you understand the position you're putting us in. We could lose our home. I understand completely. It's the same position you put yourselves in 5 years ago, before I bailed you out. Is this all because we missed one dinner? People miss dinners, Natalie. It happens. I closed my eyes, gathering my strength. It wasn't just one dinner. It was a pattern of showing me, repeatedly, that I'm not important to you, that I'm not a priority. That's not fair. Of course you're important to us. Your actions say otherwise. So this is what? Revenge.
No, Dad.
This is me finally recognizing my worth and stopping the cycle of giving everything and getting nothing in return. After I hung up, Cassandra gave me a high five. I'm proud of you, Nat. Later that afternoon, Jason came over, bringing dinner and a supportive smile. How are you holding up? Better than expected, I admitted. Though my mom left me a voicemail where she was crying so hard I could barely understand her. She said I was breaking her heart and that she never thought her own daughter would treat her this way. Jason shook his head. Amazing how they're the victims now. My phone chimed with a text from Aunt Vivian. Just checking on you. Your mother called me hysterical. I didn't tell her we spoke. Stay strong. Love you. I was surprised when, an hour later, my grandmother Eleanor called. My mother's mother was not one for family drama, and we usually only spoke on holidays. Natalie, dear. Her voice was warm but serious. I've just had the most interesting conversation with your mother. Grandma. I can explain. No need. I think you've finally stood up for yourself, and frankly, it's about time. Your mother and father have taken advantage of your generous nature for too long. Tears sprang to my eyes. You're not mad at me.
Mad?
I'm proud of you. Sometimes the hardest part of loving someone is establishing boundaries. After we hung up, I received an email notification from my bank confirming that the automatic payment had been successfully canceled. Almost simultaneously, I got a text from my father. The mortgage company just called. Payment is due in 48 hours or they'll assess late fees.
I didn't respond.
The family text chain, which included my parents, Michael, aunts, uncles, and cousins, suddenly exploded with messages about the situation. Some expressed concern, others outrage. My cousin Rachel defended me. If Nat's been paying their mortgage for 5 years, I think she's done more than enough. My uncle Gerald, Dad's brother, wrote, "Family helps family. Period." Aunt Vivian responded, "Yes, and where was that help when Natalie was sitting alone at her birthday dinner?" As the debate raged, I turned off my phone and looked at Jason and Cassandra. I need to get away for a couple of days. Clear my head. My family has that cabin by the lake, Jason offered. We could go this weekend. That sounds perfect, I said, feeling a wave of gratitude for having these two people in my corner. Jason and I returned from our weekend retreat late Sunday afternoon. The time away had been exactly what I needed, a chance to process my emotions without the constant barrage of calls and texts. As we pulled into the parking garage of my apartment building, Jason squeezed my hand. "Whatever happens next, I'm with you," he promised. We were halfway down the hallway to my apartment when I spotted them. My parents were sitting on the floor outside my door, looking tired and rumpled. "Natalie," my mother said, standing quickly when she saw us. My father followed suit, brushing off his pants. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice even. "We've been trying to reach you all weekend," my father explained. "Your mother was worried sick." "I needed some time away," I replied, moving past them to unlock my door. After a moment's hesitation, I added, "You might as well come in." They followed me inside, eyeing Jason warily. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed, her normally immaculate appearance disheveled. My father looked older somehow, the lines around his mouth more pronounced. "I'll make some coffee," Jason offered, giving me a supportive look before disappearing into the kitchen. An uncomfortable silence filled the living room as we sat down, my parents on the couch, me in the armchair across from them. "Natalie," my mother began, her voice breaking slightly, "we don't understand why you're doing this to us." Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Michael standing there, his expression a mixture of anger and concern. "Mom texted me you were back," he explained, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Great," I muttered. "The gang's all here." Michael took a seat beside our parents, creating a unified front across from me. Jason returned with coffee mugs, setting them on the table before taking a protective stance behind my chair. "Natalie," my father began again, his tone reasonable, "we understand you're upset about missing your birthday dinner. And we're sorry about that. Truly. But stopping mortgage payments without warning is an extreme overreaction." "Is it?" I asked quietly. "Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like the only way to get your attention." "You've always had our attention," my mother insisted. I laughed, the sound sharp and humorless. "Really, Mom? When was the last time you put me first? When was the last time you chose me over Michael?" "That's not fair," Michael interjected. "They don't play favorites." "They absolutely do, Michael.
And you know it."
"You've benefited from it your entire life." "We love both our children equally," my father stated firmly. "Love isn't just words, Dad. It's actions. And your actions have consistently shown that Michael is your priority, not me." "That's ridiculous," my mother said. "We've always been there for you." "Really? Where were you when I graduated valedictorian? Where were you when I got promoted? Where were you on countless birthdays and important moments in my life?" "We couldn't make every single event," my father defended. "But you made every single one of Michael's," I countered. "Every game, every ceremony, every time he called with the smallest problem. Michael needed more support, my mother said softly. And I didn't? I worked 3 jobs in college while you paid all of Michael's expenses. I bought your house when you faced foreclosure. I've been paying your mortgage for 5 years. Michael shifted uncomfortably. I didn't know it had been that long. Of course you didn't, I said. Because no one in this family ever acknowledges what I do. It's just expected. Natalie, my father began, his tone condescending, you're being emotional. Let's discuss this rationally. I am being rational, I replied, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. For years, I've given and given and given, and the one time I asked for something in return, a simple birthday dinner, you couldn't be bothered to show up. Tears were streaming down my face now. Jason placed his hands on my shoulders, a silent reminder that I wasn't alone. We said we were sorry about the dinner, my mother repeated, her own eyes filling with tears. It's not about the dinner, I exclaimed. It's about the text you sent. You're not our priority right now. Do you have any idea how much that hurt? After everything I've done for you, to hear that I'm not a priority. A sudden knock at the door interrupted the tense conversation. Jason answered it to reveal Aunt Vivian. Gerald called, she explained, stepping inside. He was worried about how this might go. My mother looked betrayed. You called my sister? I needed someone in my corner, I replied. Someone who actually cares about my feelings. We care about your feelings, my father insisted. Then why have you spent this entire conversation dismissing them? Aunt Vivian asked, taking a seat next to me. All I've heard is you telling Natalie she's overreacting, she's being emotional, she's being unfair. This is a family matter, Vivian, my father said stiffly. Yes, it is. And Natalie is family. But you've been treating her like an ATM. That's not true, my mother protested. Isn't it? I asked quietly. What would you call it when I pay your mortgage but don't receive even basic consideration in return? The room fell silent. Michael looked at the floor, my parents exchanged glances, and Aunt Vivian nodded encouragingly at me. I've always felt like I had to be perfect, I continued, the words pouring out now. Like I had to achieve everything on my own while watching Michael get endless support and second chances. Do you know what that does to a person? To always feel like the responsible one, but never the cherished one. Michael unexpectedly spoke up. I always envied you, you know. All eyes turned to him in surprise. You were always so confident, so capable. Everything came easily to you. I felt like I could never measure up. Nothing came easily to me, Michael. I worked for everything I have. The difference is, I did it without a safety net. My mother let out a sob. We never meant to make you feel less loved. But you did, I said softly. And you're still doing it now, by making this about your feelings instead of acknowledging mine. Your father and I, my mother began hesitantly, we worried about Michael more because he struggled. You always seemed fine. I wasn't fine. I just knew no one would catch me if I fell, so I made sure I never did. My father cleared his throat. We may have enabled Michael's dependence on us. That wasn't fair to you. No, it wasn't, I agreed. And it wasn't fair to him either. He never had to learn responsibility because you were always there to bail him out. Michael looked surprised at this perspective. I think, I said, standing up, that you all should leave now. I've said what I needed to say. But the mortgage, my father protested. We need to discuss arrangements. No, we don't. The arrangement for 5 years was that I would help temporarily while you got back on your feet. You've had 5 years. It's time for you to stand on your own. Please, Natalie, my mother begged. We can't lose our home. You won't if you take responsibility for it.
Get a second job.
Downsize. Do whatever you need to do, just like I had to do when I was working 3 jobs to put myself through college. Despite more tears and pleas, I stood firm. Eventually, with Aunt Vivian's gentle guidance, my parents and Michael left. Aunt Vivian hugged me tightly before following them out. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Stay strong. When the door closed behind them, I collapsed onto the couch, emotionally drained. You did it, Jason said, sitting beside me. You stood your ground. I did. I agreed, surprised by my own courage. And it was terrifying. But necessary, he added. That night, for the first time in years, I slept without the weight of family obligation pressing down on me. It was a deep, healing sleep, the kind that comes after a storm has passed, leaving clarity in its wake. The next 2 weeks passed in relative silence for my family. The mortgage payment came due, and for the first time in 5 years, I wasn't the one making it. My therapist, Dr. Reynolds, whom I started seeing 3 days after the confrontation, helped me navigate the complex emotions I was experiencing. You're grieving, she explained during our second session. Not just for the relationship you had with your parents, but for the relationship you wished you had. Her words resonated deeply. I was mourning the loss of a fantasy, the hope that someday my parents would see me, truly see me, and value me equally to my brother. Aunt Vivian invited me to lunch the following Saturday. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, and she brought with her a perspective I hadn't considered. Your mother had a complicated relationship with her own parents, she told me, stirring her tea thoughtfully. Our father was very critical, especially of Diana. Nothing she did was ever good enough. I didn't know that, I admitted. When Michael was born, he was colicky sensitive. Diana became overprotective because she was terrified of him feeling the way she had, like he wasn't good enough. And me? Aunt Vivian smiled sadly. You were so independent, so capable from the start. I think in some ways, Diana saw herself in Michael and her mother in you. That's not fair, I protested. I never judged her. Of course not. But these patterns run deep, Natalie. It doesn't excuse what they did, but it might help you understand it. The conversation with Aunt Vivian gave me a new lens through which to view my family dynamics. It didn't erase the hurt, but it added context. A few days later, I received an email from my father. The subject line read simply, I'm sorry. Natalie, it began, I've been reflecting on our conversation and on the years leading up to it. I realize now that your mother and I failed you in fundamental ways. We took your strength for granted and burdened you with responsibilities that were never yours to bear. The mortgage was our obligation, not yours, and we allowed ourselves to depend on you in ways that were unfair and exploitative. I want you to know that I am taking steps to address the financial situation. I've taken on consulting work in addition to my regular job, and your mother is returning to teaching part-time. We are committed to standing on our own feet. More importantly, I want you to know that I am deeply sorry for the ways we've hurt you. You deserved parents who celebrated your achievements and supported your dreams just as much as Michael's. You deserved to be a priority. I understand if you need time and space. When and if you're ready to talk, I am here. With love and regret, Dad. I read the email 3 times, tears falling freely. It was the first time my father had ever acknowledged his role in my pain, the first time he'd ever apologized without qualification. The next day, I found a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was steady, not tearful as I'd expected, which somehow made her words more impactful. Natalie, it's Mom. I've been doing a lot of thinking since our talk. I realize now how much I've hurt you over the years. There's no excuse for the text I sent on your birthday, or for all the times I put Michael's needs above yours. I was wrong, and I am truly sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me, but I understand if that takes time. I love you, sweetheart. I was still processing these unexpected apologies when I received a text from Michael.
Han er uvidenskabelig.
I've been thinking about everything you said. You were right. I've been selfish and entitled, and I never considered how my constant needs affected you.
I'm sorry.
I'm working on being more independent. Love you, sis. These messages left me conflicted. Part of me was deeply moved by their apparent sincerity. Another part remained skeptical, wondering if this was just an attempt to regain my financial support. During my next therapy session, I shared these doubts with Dr. Reynolds. Trust has to be rebuilt, she observed. Words are important, but actions matter more. What would you need to see from your family to believe they're genuinely changing? I considered the question carefully. Respect for my boundaries. Recognition of my worth beyond what I can provide for them. and taking responsibility for their own lives. Those are healthy expectations, she affirmed, and it's okay to wait and see if they can meet them. I consulted with Olivia, a colleague at work who specialized in family financial arrangements. She helped me understand what a proper loan agreement would look like if I ever decided to help my parents again. Any financial support should have clear terms, documentation, and repayment plans, she advised. Family loans without boundaries often destroy relationships. After 3 weeks of limited contact, I agreed to meet my parents at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. I arrived first, deliberately choosing a table in the center of the busy space, where the public setting would help keep emotions in check. When my parents arrived, they looked different somehow. My mother had cut her hair shorter, and my father seemed to have lost weight. They approached cautiously, as if unsure of their welcome. "Thank you for meeting us," my mother said as they sat down across from me. "Thank you for coming," I replied formally. There was an awkward silence before my father spoke.
"We've made some changes," he began.
"I've taken on extra work, and your mother has started teaching again. We made this month's mortgage payment," my mother added. "It was tight, but we managed." "That's good," I said, feeling a surprising surge of pride for them. "I'm glad to hear it." "We've also been talking," my father continued, "about how we've treated you over the years. The favoritism, the expectations, the taking you for granted.
"We were wrong, Natalie."
So wrong. My mother reached across the table, not quite touching my hand but extending her own in a gesture of connection. "We don't expect you to forgive us right away. Or ever if you can't. But we want you to know that we're committed to changing, to being better parents to both our children." I was formulating a response when the bell above the door chimed, and Michael walked in. He spotted us and approached hesitantly. "I know I wasn't invited," he said, "but I wanted to be here, to take responsibility in person." He pulled up a chair and sat down. "Nat, I've been a selfish jerk. I never had to grow up because Mom and Dad were always there to catch me, and you were always there to help them do it. I'm 37 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I never once thought about where the money for our parents' house was coming from." His honesty surprised me. "What changed?" I asked. "You did," he replied simply. "When you finally stood up for yourself, it was like, I don't know, like a mirror was held up to all of us. And what I saw wasn't pretty. We've all been doing a lot of soul searching," my father added. "And family therapy." "Family therapy?" I echoed, genuinely shocked. My mother nodded. "Dr. Winters has been helping us understand the patterns we've created and how to break them." For the first time, I felt a flicker of hope that real change might be possible. "I'm glad to hear that," I said cautiously. "It's a good start." "We've also been discussing the house situation," my father said. "We think it makes sense to formalize the arrangement if, and only if, you're ever willing to help again. A proper loan with documentation and a payment plan. But we're also looking at downsizing options," my mother added quickly. "The house is really too big for just us anyway." "We don't expect anything from you," my father emphasized. "We just wanted you to know that we're taking responsibility for our situation." As the conversation continued, I felt something shift inside me. The anger that had fueled me for weeks began to soften, not disappearing but transforming into something more manageable. "I need time," I told them honestly. "I can't just go back to how things were." "We don't want that either," my mother assured me. "We want something better, healthier for all of us." When we parted, there were no dramatic reconciliations, no tearful hugs. Just a tentative agreement to keep talking, to keep working on rebuilding what had been broken. As I watched them leave, Cassandra's words echoed in my mind. She had been skeptical when I told her about the meeting. "People don't change overnight, Nat. Be careful." I knew she was right to be cautious. Change took time, and trust once broken was not easily repaired. But for the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope that my relationship with my family might eventually heal. 3 months after the confrontation in my apartment, I hosted a family dinner. The idea still felt strange, my apartment becoming a neutral ground where new relationships could form from the ashes of the old. My parents arrived exactly on time, carrying a bottle of wine and a homemade dessert. The formality between us had gradually softened over weekly coffee meetings and occasional phone calls. They were trying consistently and visibly to show up for me in ways they never had before. "The place looks lovely," my mother commented, noticing the fresh flowers on the dining table. "Thank you," I replied, accepting the dessert. "It's good to have you here." Michael arrived next, without his girlfriend Amber. "We broke up," he explained when I asked about her. Part of my whole becoming an actual adult process was realizing we weren't right for each other. Jason was the last to arrive, greeting my family with the perfect mixture of warmth and reserve. He had been my rock throughout this journey, supportive without being overprotective. During dinner, I noticed subtle but significant changes in our family dynamic. My father asked detailed questions about my recent work projects, showing genuine interest. My mother mentioned she had joined a book club, something she had always wanted to do, but never made time for when she was constantly at Michael's beck and call. Most surprising was Michael himself. He had found a financial advisor of his own and was learning to budget properly for the first time in his life. He had also started taking night classes to finish his long-abandoned business degree. "The loan agreement is working well," my father mentioned as we cleared the dinner plates. After much discussion with Olivia and a family attorney, I had agreed to help with a portion of their mortgage, but with proper documentation and a clear repayment schedule. We made our first 2 payments on time. "I know," I said with a smile. "I get the notifications." My mother helped me serve the coffee. "We're still looking at smaller houses," she confided. "This arrangement is temporary, just until we can sell and find something more manageable." After dessert, my parents exchanged a look before my father cleared his throat. "We have something for you, Natalie." My mother produced a small wrapped package. "It's a few months late, but we wanted to do something special for your 30th. I unwrapped it carefully to find a velvet jewelry box. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a pendant shaped like a key. "It's beautiful," I said, genuinely touched. "It's more than just jewelry," my father explained. "It represents our recognition of how you've been the key to our family's stability for so long, and our commitment that you'll never have to carry that burden alone again." For the first time in months, I hugged my parents without reservation. The necklace was thoughtful in a way their gifts had never been before, acknowledging both our past and our hope for a different future. Later that evening, after everyone had left except Jason, I sat on my balcony watching the sunset. Jason joined me, 2 glasses of wine in hand. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, handing me a glass. "I was thinking about how much has changed. How much we've all changed." "Your parents seem different," he observed. "More aware."
They are.
Mom told me she's been working through a lot in therapy about her own childhood. She said she never realized how she was repeating patterns with Michael and me. "Breaking cycles is hard work," Jason commented. "For all of you." I nodded, sipping my wine thoughtfully. I still have moments of doubt, wondering if it will last. But then I remind myself that even if it doesn't, I'll be okay. I know my worth now. The following weekend, Jason and I visited Aunt Vivian and Uncle Gerald at their lake house. The autumn leaves created a spectacular display of color around the water, and the peace of the setting was exactly what I needed. "Your mother called me yesterday," Aunt Vivian mentioned as we sat on the dock, watching the sunset. "She wanted to thank me for supporting you when she couldn't." "That must have been a difficult call for her to make," I observed.
It was.
"But it's progress, Natalie. Real progress." As darkness fell, Jason suggested a walk along the shoreline. Under a canopy of stars, he suddenly stopped and turned to face me. "Natalie Morgan," he began, his voice slightly shaky. "The past few months have shown me how incredibly strong and resilient you are. I've always loved you, but watching you stand up for yourself, set boundaries, and still find the capacity for forgiveness, it's made me certain that you're the person I want to spend my life with." He knelt down, producing a small box from his pocket. "Will you marry me?" Through happy tears, I said yes. As he slipped the ring onto my finger, I felt a sense of rightness, of coming home to myself, and to a love that supported rather than drained me. When we returned to the lake house to share our news, Aunt Vivian insisted we call my parents immediately. To my surprise, their genuine joy and excitement came through the phone clearly. "Oh, Natalie," my mother exclaimed. "That's wonderful news. We couldn't be happier for you both," my father added. There was no mention of Michael, no shifting of focus away from my moment. It was a small thing, perhaps, but it meant everything. Later that week, during a therapy session, Dr. Reynolds asked me what I had learned from the entire experience. "I've learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and for others, is to set a boundary," I replied after careful consideration. "I've learned that people can change if they want it badly enough. And I've learned that I'm stronger than I ever gave myself credit for." "Those are powerful lessons," she agreed. "What will you take forward from here?" "The knowledge that I deserve to be a priority in the lives of people who claim to love me, and that healthy relationships are reciprocal, not one-sided." As I look toward the future now, planning a wedding with Jason and navigating this new, healthier relationship with my family, I know that healing is an ongoing process. There will be setbacks and old patterns that try to reassert themselves. But I also know that I won't lose myself again, won't sacrifice my self-worth on the altar of family obligation. The note I left my parents that morning changed everything, not because it punished them, but because it finally forced us all to confront the unhealthy dynamics we had created together. Sometimes, it takes a moment of crisis to create an opportunity for growth. I still wear the key necklace my parents gave me, not as a symbol of responsibility, but as a reminder that I hold the key to my own happiness and that true love, whether from family, partners, or friends, should always lift you up, never weigh you down. If you've ever struggled with family dynamics or felt undervalued by those who should cherish you most, I hope my story gives you courage. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. You deserve to be a priority in the lives of those who claim to love you. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with family? How did it turn out for you? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about personal growth and family relationships. And if you know someone who might need to hear this message, share this video with them. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in our struggles makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, prioritize those who prioritize you. Your worth is not determined by how much you give, but by how authentically you live.